Hello everyone and welcome to the LLG Bulletin vlog. I'm Deborah Evans, Chief Executive at LLG, and I'm joined by our Bulletin editor, Dennis Hall.
Hello everyone.
Now, Helen is still on holiday this week, so I'm stepping up again this week to give you a snappy review of Bulletin 20, plus the latest LLG news and what's coming up next week. Now, Helen will be back with us for the spring conference on Friday, of course. Now, we're busy putting our finishing touches to that. We're going to be at the Park Regis Hotel in Birmingham, and there's a tremendous lineup of speakers and contributors covering a broad spectrum of topical issues of interest to our members. So there's also obviously the prestigious dinner and LLG Awards ceremony following the conference. Could you be one of our winners? And obviously I should mention the main conference programme. It covers not one but two mayors, devolution, monitoring officers diversity, the most important levelling up bill and the green agenda. And that's just the main plenary sessions. There's plenty more activity going on in our breakouts on the day. And then there's two Zoom streams running the following Friday with all of that technical detail that you need to practice your area of law well. So there's many more practical issues that you're going to want to know about without a doubt. But first, Dennis, what caught your attention last week?
Well, first on my list, a report by the Levelling Up Select Committee warns that levelling up is at risk unless government provides long-term funding for councils to deliver economic growth for their communities. The LGA reflected the views of many by saying that the competitive process is wasteful, is not evidence-based locally, and is no substitute for long-term financial reform. And I know, Deborah, that conference keynote speaker Andy Street shares some of these views, so that should be quite interesting. And also I see that there is a conference panel session on the monitoring officer's role at the conference. One topic currently in the news that might be raised there concerns those recent data breaches involving Capita. IT governance and risk is now acknowledged as a significant and rapidly emerging corporate challenge.
So yes, monitoring officer and everything about that is a very big deal for us at the moment. We're undertaking two pieces of research to have a look at the role and responsibilities of the monitoring officer in more depth, and we could really do with your assistance on this. So firstly, we're working with Brown Jacobson to have a look at how the monitoring officer role has evolved and those roles and responsibilities and what best practice looks like in the modern day. So that's the first piece, and we could really do with your feedback on this and your assistance in contributing to that research. So do get in touch. Now, the second piece of work that we're doing is with Grant Thornton, and that's with respect to lessons learned from public interest reports and the role that the monitoring officer plays in keeping the council on the straight and narrow. And that looks not only at public interest reports references to the role of monitoring officer, but it also looks at what good governance looks like in those situations across the chief exec, the section 151 and the monitoring officer. So lots to contribute to there, and this is very important work. So watch this space. But first, sneaky peek time, Dennis. What's coming up in bulletin number 21?
Right. Well, Deborah, Bulletin 22 is our regular bulletin with all of the usual features, but this will be followed next week by our special conference bulletin, so look out for that. But back to this week. Legal news has been dominated by the standoff between government and the COVID inquiry concerning the disclosures of government information to Lady Hallett's COVID inquiry. Now, two things stand out to me so far about this. First, significant government business seems to have been transacted via WhatsApp, instead of the usual government encrypted channels that were available to both ministers and officials. But why? Second, for many people, the government's insensitive, belligerent stance must appear beyond all comprehension. They set up this inquiry, after all. They appointed Lady Hallett, and now they are withholding evidence. Now, I'm sure there'll be far more on this story over the coming weeks, but it does raise some interesting legal and ethical questions for the whole of the public sector. Deborah.
Well, thank you, Dennis. So, obviously, for more detailed coverage of what's in our bulletin, do listen to the podcast and read the bulletin. Goes without saying. So, it's goodbye from me.
And from me too.